It was interesting to hear WHO Radio News just a few moments ago at the Romney meeting, just getting out, I think, as we were talking about Romney's plan to pull the plug on wind power tax credits. He, in his speech, says we ought to do everything to support wind and support solar and do all those things. He listed wind back on the things we ought to support. So I'm not sure at this moment what the Romney position is. We'll see if we can figure it out later. Though we're going to talk about presidential politics right now, though, from a totally different party point of view, the Libertarian Party view. We've talked with Gary Johnson, who's the mucky muck in charge of the Libertarian Party at the presidential level. But right now, the vice presidential candidate for the Libertarian Party is Judge Jim Gray. Welcome aboard, sir.
Jan, it's great to be with you. Thanks for the opportunity.
So are there criminals not being put in jail because you're out sloughing off on the job here? There's people, you think about the judicial overload, and you're out here in the cheap seat just taking it easy when criminals are not being locked up because of your profligacy.
Actually, first of all, I'm not in the cheap seats. This is big-time stuff.
Okay.
And secondly, we have filled our prisons beyond capacity pretty much in California.
So you're basically saying that you've done a good job, but now you're not doing a good job.
Well, you know, we are overly punitive in our country. I tell people in California we have tens of thousands of people in prison that simply should not be there.
All right. Give me the name of one of them.
Well, okay. There are numbers of people that are geriatric at this point. I know. You know,
my mom used to do that. They're starving people. Eat your big peas.
Yeah, name
starving.
One of them.
Yes, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that to you. But back to your serious point.
Well, I mean, the war on drugs. We're simply doing it wrong. We outlawed hemp way back in the 30s. You can go back to the congressional record and absolutely know that people in Congress who were outlawing marijuana had no idea that they were outlawing hemp. Let's bring hemp back and treat it like cotton. You're looking in Iowa here. You are absolutely beautifully suited to be able to raise the hemp crop. We're importing billions of dollars of hemp from Canada. These are just some of the things.
We call it ditchweed here.
And ditchweed, sure. Well, it's all through. You know, and it is a viable, wonderful industrial crop. Many usages, and let's just bring it back.
I saw this morning on Amazon, it's related to what you're talking about, something I did not anticipate. There's a fellow that's talking about making his own chocolate. There's a physician talking about making his own chocolate. And because the constituent parts of chocolate, he said, are really good for you, minus the sugar and all the glop we put in it.
Sure.
And he said, well, here's how you do it. And he listed a bunch of constituents, including this hemp protein that we, as you say, we have to import.
Absolutely. And we import. We're punishing our farmers. We're punishing our merchants. But by the way, I mean, the thing that we need to talk about, Jan, is jobs. And you have Obama and Romney are very much the same on the one hand, and pretty much everything you can talk about, and then we are on the other.
Who's the we again? Who's the Libertarians?
We are Governor Gary Johnson, the most qualified person to be president of the United States that I know of.
Well, I would say that Ron Paul is, but
honestly, Dr. Paul is a hero. I'll be in Tampa.
Yeah.
He's a hero, but Governor Johnson has 8 years of administrative experience, which, as we sit here, is more than both Mr. Obama and Mr. Romney combined.
Well, the only reason I bring up Ron Paul is because he's a huge fan of and focus within libertarians.
Absolutely.
And he's
a hero.
And if he could have been compelled to run a third party candidacy, he would have likely have been in the Libertarian Party.
Well, he ran in 1988 as the Libertarian candidate for president. He certainly is a Libertarian. He has won this election in so many ways by mainstreaming this whole approach, and I applaud Dr.
And
Paul
Gary Johnson is
same thing.
He has done his best to pick up the mantle of the Ron Paul people.
In fact, has, and Ron Paul people legitimately are flocking to us. We'll have their convention in Tampa soon, and I will be there. The governor will be there, and we will, of course, not welcome the Ron Paul supporters to our family because they're in our family, and we continue to be, and it's hugely important.
Ron Paul will not be speaking at the Republican convention. He is still, I don't think, a Romney supporter, although Rand Paul will be speaking at the convention, and because he's a Republican senator, has chosen to go mainstream.
Not true.
Not true?
Well,
what part of that's not true?
Mainstream is not Romney. Mainstream is really not Obama. Governor Gary Johnson.
I was talking about Rand Paul.
Well, if he's going to be supporting Romney, which he did, and we can talk about that. But Governor Gary Johnson is the mainstream of political philosophy today in the voters. We are both financially responsible and socially tolerant, and no one can say that either Obama or Romney are both of those.
What's socially tolerant?
Socially tolerant basically means let's allow an adult to live in the fashion that adult wants to, as long as you don't harm other people. And so we have come out in favor of, for example, marriage equality. We believe that is as much of an issue as racial or gender equality, and it is a socially tolerant position.
That's social advocacy. That's not tolerance.
Well, okay. It is recognizing the truism that an adult should be able to live his or her life as he or she chooses.
I agree with that philosophy, but when you compare marriage equality, that's not tolerance. That's advocacy. That is that's equating two unequal things, and you've drank all the Kool-Aid. It sounds like
not quite, Jan. The government has stepped forward and you can get in a line item and look in thousands of statutes today around the country and federal that talk about marriage. And so they give some form of benefit to folks that are married.
Absolutely.
And therefore, we are saying that people that choose to marry should be treated equally. So it's
I
really
agree with
the
that.
same.
It's not a question of being treated equal. Everybody who qualifies to be married should be treated equally.
There you go.
Two people of the same gender don't qualify. Therefore, and because the relationship isn't equal.
Well, okay. That is a comment, but that's, you asked me. We do stand for marriage equality, just like we stand for gun rights. The same thing as gay rights. Gun rights are a question of liberty, just like the marriage equality as well.
Okay. All right. I don't think that's a libertarian position, but that's a position you guys are holding.
That is indeed.
I would argue I would consider myself a libertarian, but I don't consider that a libertarian position.
Okay. But let's focus on what is happening in the world today politically in the United States. That you will find, for example, the Republicans and Democrats, Romney and Obama, are both talking about bombing Iran, going to war with Iran. Obama is talking about putting troops in Mali, for heaven's sake. Both of them are putting our troops in harm's way, meddling in various foreign affairs. Does this affect the security of the United States of America? Mm-hmm. And the answer is no. We say, let's not do that. Unless somebody attacks us, we're not going to bomb anybody.
So we have to wait to be attacked?
Yes, sure. If our allies are attacked or
what if we
are attacked?
What if we think that we have absolute or pretty close to absolute certainty that we are likely to be attacked?
Well, that's different then. I mean, if we really believe that they are marshaling on our forces, no, we're not going to
I don't think Mali is about to attack us.
I don't either. That's what we're saying. Really, Afghanistan. It's time, whatever we can, and Governor favored going into Afghanistan, whatever we can have benefited from that has long since been benefited. It's time to bring our troops home. They continue to keep us in fear. They continue to
use
they? They are the Republicans and the Democrats. Do you believe over the last 12 years that the government of the United States has governed us appropriately?
Of course not. I don't know anybody that thinks that.
I don't either. So let's let's be libertarian with us for one election. And you know something, Ron? If you're not happy with really financial responsibility, equal opportunity.
You're calling me Ron Paul?
Dan. Dan. Well, you're mentioning Ron. Sorry.
That's okay.
Gotcha.
That's a major promotion as far as I'm concerned.
Well, that is flattering, and you're right in that camp. But, if you're not happy with being libertarian for 4 years, you can always vote back the politics as usual. We're not going in the right direction, and it won't make any particular difference if it's Romney or if it's Obama. They're pretty much the same. With regard to their lack of having a budget, we haven't even had a budget in the last 3 years. We will submit a balanced budget to Congress. Well, we need to reduce our government spending, and we also need to reduce our foreign conflicts.
Okay, because we have plenty of conflicts here at home we can deal with.
We would. Wouldn't it be better to fix our highways, our bridges, our roads, instead of doing that half a world away? We can't afford it. It's inappropriate, and it's not helping. Let's bring our resources here. I've been traveling on I-80 for a bit, and there are a lot of bridges over those rivers that need some attention. Let's do that instead of fixing the bridges in Afghanistan, for heaven's sake.
Okay, my in-studio guest is Judge Jim Gray. He's the vice presidential candidate, Libertarian Party. Those of you who are Ron Paulistas or people who are independent and are looking at the crop that both the Democrats and Republicans are serving up, and you find them incredibly woeful, this is still a third party option. You will be on the ballot in all 50 states?
All 50 states.
And the Libertarian Party exists. It's out there and it's thriving. It's been around for a long time, and a lot of folks are going to be thinking about voting third party. Are you going to be one of them? Check out the website, Gary Johnson 2012. But Judge Gray, what kind of judge, by the way? We should...
A good one, actually.
Yeah, okay. Was it civil, criminal, everything, or what?
Yes. In 25 years on the bench, I pretty much did everything but family law.
You were in Orange County?
Orange County, California, Southern California.
Which level of court? You weren't in the Ninth Circuit, were you?
No, sir. I will beg off on that one. No, I was in the state system. That would be in the federal system, but I was the higher trial court judge.
So criminal, everything?
You bet. Pretty much in 25 years, you've seen it all.
Okay. So we were talking about this earlier, and I want you to get back to some of the people who do not belong in jail and what you think, how we could reform our criminal justice system. But one of the questions that always comes up whenever we have a third-party alternative, and Joan, you have the appropriate question. Good morning, Joan.
Good morning.
Hi.
Regarding your question before the break about would I vote for a third-party candidate, I love so much of what the Libertarian Party is about, but I am compelled. I want Obama out, and a vote for a third party just splits the vote, and I think we'll fail if we vote. But I would love to see them be able to become more dominant, but they're a long way from that, in my opinion.
Joan, thank you, and that's on everybody's mind, and I appreciate bringing it up so directly.
That's all
right.
Well,
you betcha. We are dividing our campaign into two phases, and the first phase will end by the end of September, so let's be in the debates. We need to poll well enough to be in the presidential debates. There will be 3 in October for the president, and by the way, there'll be 1 for vice president. I simply cannot wait to be able to debate Joe Biden. But once that happens, if we don't get in the debates, we're dead. Okay, I've said it. If we are in the debates, then all the rules will change. And people will see, once we're viable, that we really are a way to bring back prosperity, equal opportunity, and freedom to the United States. Because I think you will see, if you vote for the lesser of two evils, Joan, you still end up with evil. And we will actually bring our troops home from so many places. We will bring back prosperity. We're going to talk about how we're going to bring back jobs, both to the Midwest as well as around the country, by repealing the income tax. And I hope Jan gives me a chance to talk about that.
Well, yeah, we'll do all that.
But these are things that we will do. But first of all, your vote is your own. But if you get called by some polling company, don't hang up the phone. Say, I support Governor Gary Johnson. Get us into those debates. Force Obama and Romney to talk about issues they do not want to talk about. I mean, you know full well that Romney is the architect of Obamacare. He's not going to repeal it, galloping in the wrong direction. They're going to continue to keep our troops at war, all the rest of these things. Mm-hmm. Just get us in the debates, and then all the rules will change. Let's just do it that way.
All right, okay. So you say still choosing between the lesser of two evils is still evil.
Yes, sir.
All right, so how about then choosing amongst the lesser of three evils? Because every political choice, every political party, every platform contains stuff that people agree with and stuff that people disagree with. And let me just be frank on this subject, and I'm kind of I would consider myself a libertarian. Because I want the government out of just about all the business, especially stuff that's expressly denied in our Constitution.
Yes, sir.
Limited powers,
yes.
An honest currency, as Ron Paul would talk about, sensible, non-interventionist foreign policy. I'm on board and all that stuff. Yes. Decriminalizing most self-destructive behavior, getting rid of the social safety net when it comes to bailing out people who have committed acts of stupidity. They are welcome to go do what they want to do as long as they don't send me the bill. I'm pretty much there and all that stuff.
Including Obama is now saying that, if you didn't get crop insurance, that we can just delay that and let you buy it now, which is just irresponsible. And focusing on promising help for irresponsible.
Yeah, but I just saw the press release that you guys released. It says Libertarian presidential ticket endorses Ohio's proposed gay marriage act. Now, I consider that evil.
Okay.
So if I were to just say, if I'm going to just ignore that, I would have to be, by your definition, choosing the lesser amongst three evils.
Okay.
So you're always going to be making a choice.
You're right, Jan, of course. You know, there's so many issues out there, and life is relative. You've got to pick and choose.
No, it's not relative.
As to what's more important, as far as the prosperity of our country and jobs and keeping our soldiers out of harm's way, those things rank awfully high.
Okay.
And we are different than both the Republicans and the Democrats. And then you have to do a weighing process without any question. That's called life. So we're going to have to equate, for example, doing stem cell research on the one hand with jobs on the other, and you're going to have to decide which you feel is more important.
Well, it's a false choice, I would assert. In that stem cell research is not nothing wrong with it as long as it's not derived from embryonic stem cells.
Okay.
So there are ethical criteria by which we judge everything in life.
And that's right.
And I guess I have to ask you the question then, by what standards will you determine what is right and wrong?
Well, you use a moral compass.
Yeah, exactly.
And
where do you get yours, and which direction does it point?
Well, okay. Now, I'm not sure which issue we're talking about again.
Any of them. Where do you derive from what source do you derive your ethics?
Well, I am a man of faith, sir, and if that's what you're talking
What's
about.
What's the object of your faith?
Well, to live a moral life and to try to help others do the same.
How do you determine what's moral?
Okay, I'm not sure how far we can get into a philosophical discussion here.
Where it leads.
I am as much a moral and responsible and religious person as is running in this race, and I believe
that's a pretty low standard.
I believe that
I was hoping for somebody better.
Well, Governor Gary Johnson, I will hold up to be that standard as well. And with my background, and you can see what I have done in my life, that I believe. Again, I was in the Peace Corps and in the military because they were drafting me, and I was going to go, and did. In fact,
Who was drafting you?
The United States of America.
So you decided to serve in the Peace Corps. Were you a CO? Conscientious objector?
No, as I say, I was in the Peace Corps, and I was being drafted, and I went into the Navy.
Oh, I misunderstood. Okay.
I was actually given a combat action ribbon, awarded one in Vietnam. I will be the only person in the military, as far as I know. I don't know who Governor Romney is going to choose, but I am the only veteran that is in this race. I will be the first Peace Corps volunteer to have been elected to national office.
We talked about that before we went on. You went to Costa Rica.
That's right.
You dedicated your time in Costa Rica.
Soy un tico, si senor.
Okay. What did you do? Now, this is just interesting because you're of the Vietnam generation. You were in Vietnam. What did you?
I was. Well,
what did you do? What was your area of expertise?
I was awarded a combat action ribbon on a training cruise, actually, where I was in the rivers of Vietnam as a midshipman. Very unusual thing.
Like one of those small boats in the river.
Yeah, it was a landing ship tank. It's one of those that was actually built to land in Normandy on the beaches, and then we were resupplying.
Not designed for what it was being used for.
Not really, but we used it, and then I eventually went back to Da Nang and adopted a son from Vietnam while I was in the Navy in Guam.
Wow.
So he's just turned 40 years old. It's amazing, Jan, that I'm not 40 years old and when he was born, but he's 40 years old. We all know how that goes.
Okay. We're trying to get to know you, and because this is the way we do it. We try to figure out how your brain works. You're asking people to put their confidence in you and your expertise.
Yes, sir.
And we want to know how your brain works and why. The why question is much more important than the what, as far as I'm concerned.
Give me your hardest question.
I already did.
Give you an honest answer.
Well, I already did. And is from where do you get your ethics, and how do you determine what is right and wrong? And you say you're a person of faith, and I am comfortable. Let's put it this way. I am totally comfortable having religious, faith-based conversations involved in the political arena, because I believe that our form of government starts with the proposition that we are part of the created order and our rights come from God, and it is the function of government to preserve our God-given liberties. And you don't do that with cliches. You don't do that with good intention. You do that with hardcore, philosophical, hard work that you're willing to defend and describe.
Jan,
and that's what I'm inviting you to do.
I was on the bench for 25 years when I had a hand-painted sign on my bench to remind me. And the hand-painted sign said, "There is no peace in a land without justice." I believe in justice. I believe in equal opportunity. And I believe in our Constitution. And I believe that, and honestly, I was enforcing laws that I did not agree with. For example, the war on drugs, drug prohibition, is, I believe, a colossal failure. I would enforce those laws. I didn't have to do it privately or quietly.
Right.
But I certainly would enforce them because that was my duty.
Can I ask you an off-the-wall question here?
Already have.
Maybe another one. If somebody came into your court and on the jury, I've been called to jury duty a couple of times, and there's never actually gone to that to the court because they just ran out of whatever.
It's okay.
It was.
All you do is show up.
But one of the things they handed out was the the handbook says you must take an oath as a juror to follow the judge's directions on the law and the fact. I don't think I would have done that, because I don't think that the jury should be bound to. I think the rights of the jury, include the right to judge both the law and the facts. Do you agree with that?
No. There we are. There we are going to part company. I believe that we should have reasonable laws, but I believe that we should enforce the laws that we have.
Okay.
And if they're not, you have
in Orange County, you have a really good example of that jury nullification process being totally wrecked in the O.J. case, perhaps.
Oh, goodness. Well, I'm not going to get into the O.J. case. That just takes too much conversation. I would actually have a great deal of difficulty. I'm pretty creative coming up with a factual pattern in which O.J. Simpson did not kill his wife. Well, I understand that, but that's...
I'm not advocating that kind of...
This time is too important to go back and rehash the O.J. Simpson case.
I understand that.
Judge Ito was the wrong judge for that case. Let's just put it that way.
I do have a few more minutes. We'll take some time and we'll get to...
Absolutely. It's so critical that we just get in the debates. It's a matter of fairness. We will earn your votes. We will merit your votes.
Okay.
There is no one more qualified to be President of the United States than Governor Gary Johnson. And I believe, even though Mr. Biden will have been president for vice president for 3.5 years or so, I am more qualified to be vice president than he, or actually whomever Mr. Romney may choose. But we're going to leave that to the voters. At the moment, just get us in the debates. That's a matter of real importance, I believe, to the voters of our country.
I'm just interested in the entertainment value. Even if it's politically not justifiable, I don't care. I think you guys belong in the debates just to provide another level of non-government nonsense.
And to make those other two candidates
accountable.
Respond to issues they do not want to respond to. Health care, education. Well, we believe in choice in education and bring back excellence in that fashion. And so many more.
My in-studio guest is Judge Jim Gray. He is a Libertarian. He is the vice presidential candidate in the Libertarian Party under Governor Gary Johnson. I was asking, as a former judge, does the jury have the right to say not guilty if they think the law is being misapplied?
Categorically, yes. Absolutely.
Okay. And I'm not in favor of this, just letting the jury just run amok here. I'm not suggesting that's not what jury nullification is. But you're a person, when you're dealing with drugs and locking all these people up with who have drug convictions, and you think that is a mistake as a libertarian.
Yes.
One of the ways that we got rid of prohibition prohibition was that generation of Americans just stopped convicting people.
Yes, and New York actually passed laws saying that it's no longer illegal to have alcohol prohibited or illegal in New York. And there are initiatives now in Colorado, where I'll be stopping on the way home, Washington and Oregon, to treat marijuana like alcohol, which we support. Let's regulate it, control it, tax it, for heaven's sake. In California, at least, and I'll bet here in Iowa, marijuana is the largest cash crop in our state. Number 2 is grapes in California. And, we're subsidizing juvenile gangs and Mexican drug cartels. It's out there. It's being used. And really, Jan, as a judge, I would sentence several people for being under the influence of methamphetamines. In the time of sentencing, they'd tell me, and they had no benefit because we have a mandatory minimum sentence there of 90 days if you're under the influence. It's really a waste of time.
And plus, you have a 3 strikes rule, too.
We
That's
have a
pretty
3 strikes
nasty.
rule. It's just, I'm saying we have too many people in prison. We have mindlessly punitive laws in California. And I don't believe in mandatory minimum sentences. I believe that you should have a judge be able to have the discretion to do it. Probably 3 judges, by the way, would sentence, so you have a panel. But just to finish the thought, if these guys said that they got some marijuana that was laced with methamphetamines. Why? Because their supplier wanted to hook them,
right.
And so they did. Now, we all know that smoking tobacco is not healthy, but at least if you go to your local mini-mart and buy a pack of Marlboros, it's not going to be laced with methamphetamines. So these are issues that we can and must control. Look at Mexico, of course, with all of the violence. None of that has anything to do with drugs. It's all drug money, and it's the drug money that is responsible for these violence and the corruption, etc. So we're having problems in our country. Probably 10% are drug problems, 90% are drug prohibition problems. So let's address those, and then we'll have all the more money to address drug treatment, which is a medical issue, like I was hearing you say earlier.
We have lots of folks who would like in on the conversation. My guest is Judge Jim Gray, Libertarian, beginning with Larry. Good morning, Larry.
How you doing, Jan?
Great.
Good. I just want to know if the good judge realizes that we are the state that kicked out 3 Supreme Court judges for the very issue that he's bringing up about gay marriage, and also being a man of self-proclaimed faith. Does he not realize what the good Lord did to Sodom and Gomorrah?
Okay. All right. So you would not be aware of this, but the Supreme Court here in Iowa several months ago decided to overturn or say that our DOMA law must be overturned. And that theoretically instituted same-gender marriage here in Iowa. The Iowa public, by a pretty substantial majority, non-retained the 3 of those judges that were up for.
Fully, they're right.
Yeah.
Good for we people should be responsive to the people, and of course also to the Constitution and the laws.
He's basically saying that libertarians inventing a right and extending it to people who don't qualify for it is hardly libertarianism. That's advocacy.
Okay. Well, I understand. This is our position, and at least, unlike Obama and Romney, who give lip service to lots of things, I don't know where Mr. Romney stands on almost anything. I don't know where Mr. Obama stands on most anything. You do know where Governor Gary Johnson and Judge Jim Gray stand, and I think at least you will, regardless of the situation, at least give us some credit for standing up for what we believe, and you know what we believe instead of giving lip service.
All right. This is Andy. Good morning, Andy.
Good morning.
Hi.
I'm sitting out here thinking that the Libertarian Party has been hijacked by extremists just like the Democrats and Republicans. The past is the best indication of the future, and it's clear if you look at Romney's past, he's been very successful in every field. The other thing that worries me is you flippantly discuss gay marriage and abortion, stem cell research, and all that. And as Jan said, we have expressed ourselves repeatedly of what we expect the government to do. And frankly, I'm more shocked at your stand for the Libertarian Party than I am either Democrat or Republican.
Okay, thank you, Andy. For instance, Ron Paul is a physician, a pediatrician, and he takes a generic pro-life, a very eloquent pro-life point of view, but he suggests that the issue is a state issue and not a federal issue.
So do we.
Do you think the same thing?
Yes, and I don't believe that the federal government should spend any money with regard to those things whatsoever.
What about Roe versus Wade? What jurisdiction does it have?
Well, Roe versus Wade has been around as precedent for numbers of years.
Is it the law of the land?
It is the law of the land according to the Supreme Court, who has interpreted it, yes.
Okay. I don't know why I should be surprised when a judge would say that. You have to say that. So this is the issue we've been fighting here in Iowa. When the Iowa Supreme Court speaks, is that the law of the land? Can they
That is the law of the state of Iowa, and they're talking about the laws of the state of Iowa.
Yes.
Our federal system, federal law trumps state law, the supremacy clause, that's just the way it's set up. We have the Angel Rach case with medical marijuana, saying that if she were, and she was, raising medical marijuana in her own property for her own use under the laws of the state of California, and the United States Supreme Court said no, that if she weren't raising her own marijuana, she would buy marijuana that might have come through interstate commerce. Therefore, the United States government
jurisdiction,
control it. Yeah.
And that's baloney?
It was just baloney. Absolute craziness.
So if a court decision issues baloney, are we? What is the appropriate response?
Well, that just depends. Am I a trial court judge? Unless I can distinguish it, I raised my hand to follow the state's laws and the Constitution, so I have to follow it. I agree. I agree with that. Now that I'm a candidate, I am decrying it. I was decrying it publicly as a trial court judge, but I do have to follow the law.
Okay, this is an interesting point. You're saying as a lower level judge, you are bound by the opinions of higher level judge, and that you consider the law.
I am bound to follow the law as it has been
bound by
found and decreed by the appellate courts. That is our system. I believe in that system.
Okay.
And if the United States Supreme Court says it, I don't have to like it. I can publicly criticize it, but I'm required to follow it, and that's just my duty.
Okay.
And I take my duty seriously.
Okay, cool. This is Jonathan. Good morning, Jonathan.
Hi.
What's on your mind, sir?
Well, first I'd like to thanks for having me on. Mr. Gray, I'm a 25-year-old married man, and I am also as well a person of faith. I wanted to echo exactly what you had said about the social issues versus the conservative economically. I cannot agree with you more that the people who are adults should be able to live as adults. And I also cannot agree with you more about the conservative economic needs in this country. And I completely disagree with your host and all the other older folks. And I just wanted to let you know that there are so many of my friends and people that are my age that are feeling this exact same way, that share the values of completely against abortion, because that is not an adult making a decision. That is then somebody who cannot make that decision. But adults should be able to make whatever decision they feel, as long as they are not harming someone who is not an adult. And
how are you disagreeing, Jonathan? How are you disagreeing with me?
Well, I believe that your stance is where you are simply saying that you would like the government to interfere with what they consider to be marriage or not marriage.
Oh, no. It's the opposite. It's opposite, Jonathan. I agree with your the first premise, that people ought to be able to live the way they jolly well please, and I don't have anything to say about that. But as soon as the state steps forward and starts issuing marriage licenses and starts handing out benefits on the basis of that, I would consider legal fiction, that's not live and let live. That's not a libertarian idea. That's advocacy, and that is using the power of government to compel the rest of us to assent to something we consider evil.
Well, and I would say that you're libertarian. I think that you are holding to your view of what a party should be, and I think this is the thing I like about what Mr. Gray is saying is he's not saying, well, maybe that's not the libertarian view, but that is a practical person who is sitting there thinking, these are two adults, they should be able to make whatever decision, and the government should stay out of their business.
And I agree with that, including a marriage license.
Right.
Hey, thank you, Jonathan. I appreciate it.
And thank you, Jonathan, and I agree with you and appreciate your comment.
This is Chuck. Good morning, Chuck.
Hey, I just caught the tail end of your conversation here, so the only thing I've heard your guest comment on is the marijuana thing. I just want to say I'm surprised that these people that are calling in and they're bashing him without saying why they actually disagree with him. I've been a lifelong Republican. I consider myself a fiscal conservative, and over the years I've become more of a social libertarian, where I feel like the government shouldn't be regulating social activity other than when it harms someone else. Thus, I would be against abortion because it harms someone else. But other than that, it needs to be more of a live and let live type thing. And
yeah, I agree with that, Chuck.
Chuck, and I think that's exactly what we're saying, that Governor Gary Johnson is financially responsible, and I think that he is socially tolerant. Like we said before, you can say socially responsible. That is the mainstream of American political thought, and we are in that mainstream. Chuck, help us get in the debates. We will discuss these issues
directly. How do we do that?
You know, it's really hard because it's polling, and after Ross Perot, who was the last third party to be in the debates, was polling in 1992 at 7%, was a part of them. Then the Republicans and Democrats put in this, they call it Presidential Debates Commission, arbitrarily set the bar at 15%. I think, honestly, with Ron Paul supporters and numbers of other people, we may very well poll at 15%. We're right now around 5 or 6. But if a pollster calls you, first of all, don't hang up, and secondly, say, keep your vote as you wish, but say, I support Governor Gary Johnson. Get us in those debates.
Interesting.
It will make a huge difference.
A brief timeout. We'll come right back in a moment at 1040 WE. Judge Jim Gray is our in-studio guest. We just have a moment's remaining next hour. We'll come back to our open line time. We were talking about wind energy before. What would you like us to know more than anything else?
Well, Jan, thank you. You know, there's so much to talk about, and we're proud of this. Governor Gary Johnson is the real deal. He left New Mexico with $1 billion surplus. We'll do the same thing for our country. So go to our website. It's GaryJohnson2012.com. And right now, of course, we're seeing these hundreds of millions of dollars being spent by the Republicans and Democrats, basically just criticizing each other. And honestly, Jan, I agree with both of them. Let's vote for someone. Let's vote for someone that has the courage, who has the success rate, who has been a successful governor. He's the right guy. Governor Gary Johnson, get us in the debates. You will be proud that you voted for us, and 60% of the people that don't will wish they had.
Thank you for joining us. An honor meeting you. Come back and see us again.
Look forward to it.
And all right. The fellow's name is Judge Jim Gray, the Libertarian candidate, vice presidential candidate.